I don't think he would do a spicy noodle challenge with us.
Oh no!
Give me flashbacks.
I'm just waiting here. Goodness. YouTube looks like has already caught up to us. Yeah, it has. Perfect. I'm going to pop out my chat so that I can see what's going on.
What is up, everybody?
Like hey to Jack Fu, Scarecrow, Hydrone, Billy Hackett, Lanuzo. Vampire's here somewhere, I know, because he was messaging me. Hey, Travis, too. You know who Scarecrow is, don't you?
Oh, yeah. He just edited my latest video for me.
Yeah, he did. It was sick.
Is the bomb, and he put that together, too, in, like, no time whatsoever, so we're going to see we'll see some more awesome stuff from him.
Yeah, he's good. He's got a really, like, awesome artistic side.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Fu's like, I already got questions. We gotta wait a minute, let everyone get here, and then we'll, introduce Danny, even though I'm sure everyone knows him. And then we'll get into the questions. It's only 9:01.
We would normally be like halfway through our show.
We'd normally be like done our show.
True.
If we were running on time. It's our first week doing the 9 o'clock show instead of the 8 o'clock. Summer hours. The sun's out, so we should be fine not doing interviews.
Problem is weather this time of year.
Oh, yeah, no, it's raining constantly for me. It's been like, we've had 2 rainy months, I would say now. March had snow and then rain, and now April's been pretty much all rain and wind. Jack Fu. I don't know if you can read Jack Fu knows. Yeah, Kimball, I think 9's a better time slot too, especially in the summer anyway. In the winter, people are bored hanging out, I found, so 8 work till 10. The only thing is we're going to try not to go over Chad Miller's time as much as we can because his show's at 11. So we'll do our best, but sometimes it's going to go later. Later.
I love the comment. Let's get this started. You only have so much time with the king of sweet guys. What's up, Jack? That's funny.
Yeah, Jack Fu is really good people. He's sending us hot noodles to do a challenge with someone. There's apparently like super spicy.
That's not me.
No, that's what Jake was saying. We should have done it with you. When's your next Hot Wings episode with Rotor Riot?
Never. You enjoy the one that was there. It's not happening again.
Did you like barely survive it?
I don't know about barely survive, but I definitely was ready to die. I'll tell you what. I was accepted that if it was my time to go, I was ready. I mean that so seriously. Like it was so. From once we stopped rolling the cameras too, like it just got worse and worse. I was actually trying to like hold myself together for the cameras. So like what you saw was me trying to act like it wasn't that bad, even though it clearly made it look like it was that bad, because it was. And the moment we stopped filming, I mean, I got in the car and I was in a fetal position the entire way back to the Airbnb. And they're like, "Oh, we're gonna go out and walk around and stuff." And I'm like, "I'm staying here." I went to my bed, crawled on top of the sheets and all my clothes, got in a fetal position and slept for about 2 hours or so and had the best nap of my entire life and then felt terrible for the next 48 hours.
Yep.
So, no, not happening again.
Was that your first experience with spicy food?
No, I like spice. And when I was doing a lot of traveling, like living in Korea and stuff like that, I had no problem with spicy food. And I thought the wings themselves tasted fine. The problem was it was like over the top spicy. Like I enjoy spicy food. As people I know, like I like hot salsa. Like, and that's like not necessarily spicy, but like comparatively speaking, the normal food it is. Like I like hot spicy stuff. I just don't like torture. And the problem with the wings is like how it just tortures 2 things: your tongue and your stomach. And it does it in a way it tortures your tongue when you eat it, and then when you do what I did, which is stupid. You drink a whole gallon of milk in 5-minute process. It all sits in your stomach with the wings, and there you go. So
that's so funny.
You know what's great about that?
Funny. I'm glad
nobody will stop talking about it. I promise you.
Nope, and that's fine because it's not ever happening again. That's the last time. That's when that one's happening.
Whereas Jake's like, give me more hot sauce. Let's see how many more times I can puke.
Oh, jeez.
Like I said, nobody will forget it.
Hey, I don't get to live down milk bags. You don't get to live down hot sauce puke. That's just how that happens.
Oh.
So, welcome to the show, Vanny. It's been a while trying to get you on. Lenozo says, where's Kat? What do you mean? I'm right here. I haven't left. My screen shows me. So, I don't know what's happening. But thank you for finally having some time to come on the stream. I know it's hard with school and work and life and drones and DRL and everything, but we actually already have a ton of questions coming in. So I think we'll do some of their questions and then do our questions. Just get them out of the way.
Go for it.
So, Kimbo FPV. He has a question for you about the Switchback 533 frame, which we know is Evan's frame because Evan was on here. And he wants to know if you prefer the SFGs or not to install.
That's a good question. I've tried them and I don't use them. I think they add a little bit too much weight for me. But if you want your quad to be insanely durable, I highly recommend them. Personally, I can't notice a big flight difference. Sean Ames, who's another 533 team pilot and one of the top racers in the U.S., swears on his life that it made him go way faster. So I guess you just have to try them yourself if you haven't already. But me personally, I just don't run them.
Do you think it might be a placebo that he would go faster? Like knowing he has them and being like, oh, it's going to make me faster versus like you being like, they may not work for me and then seeing no difference?
You know, I don't think with this guy, Sean Ames, it's placebo just because I know the way he tests stuff and I know he tries to eliminate the placebo effect as best he can. He likes hard data. And so, I think it has to depend on your flying style and how you fly the quad, whether or not, and the track that you're flying as well, whether you're going to like the SFGs or not. I like a lightweight quad. I like the feel of a lightweight quad. So adding 18 grams to the quad doesn't really do it for me, even if you gain maybe a tiny performance advantage in the straightaways.
That's fair. Jack Fu wants to know if you have any Cinewhoop suggestions as for what to buy.
I'm lazy, so I just like stuff that works. So for me, this is going to sound like a shameless plug, but I do like the Rotorite bind and fly, or they have even a kit version of a Cinewhoop on their website, just rotorite.com. Look up Cinewhoop because I know that one, it has a hobby wing stack, which is what I use in my racing quads. You can run 6-cell on it. You can I like the DJI system on the Cinewhoop just because you're flying around slow and you can see a lot with the HD. But just that platform, even if you were to do analog, is great with the T motors and the hobby wing stack and everything. It's pretty solid.
I have yet to try it with the T motors. I have the hobby wing right now, but I will sooner or later.
Yeah. I've flown a few of them. They all fly like Cinewhoops, so take that as you will. I look at them as filming platforms, not as freestyle quads. But
Tom John wants you to tell him about the models behind you.
Sure. If I can point, I got it's on the floor there. That's a 1/5 scale Carbon Cub. It's a Hanger 9, which is a Horizon Hobby product. Behind me, I have the canopies off it, but this is a Hanger 9 1/3 scale RV4. Both of those are electric airplanes. And then in the background, that is a real airplane. And that is we actually are renting that, or someone's renting the space in our hangar right now. So it's not our airplane, but that's like a custom built Cirrus SR-22 style airplane for anyone in aviation who knows what that is. So, but I have more models. It's kind of scattered right now, but yeah, those are the big ones. So
that's pretty cool. Because your mom's a pilot, right? I think I've seen that posted online.
Yep, she's a private pilot. So am I. And we live on an airport, so we're surrounded by a bunch of pilots. So it's pretty awesome, actually.
You cool. Live on an airport?
Yep, I live here. So like literally, we're on a private airport, and I'm in an aircraft hangar right now, as you can see. And then directly above me is like a built-in house in this ceiling. So it's pretty sick.
That is really cool, especially when you're passionate, because now you're like constantly surrounded by it.
Right. No, I love it. It's a blessing.
So with that being said, like I've seen a couple of your little, I don't know, you have a track in your yard or something like that. Is that at your house?
Yeah.
So you're flying on the
That's
airport,
straight
or
outside.
how does it?
Yep. Straight here on the airport, probably about 500 feet from the runway. But there's
awesome.
it's all legal and it's all under. That's actually a hangar door opening up. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the background, but yeah, I'm flying here to the airport. I'm distance away from the runway and everything, and it's kind of cool because like I'll stop flying whenever airplanes taxi by and stuff like that because where my directly across the taxiway, which is obviously where airplanes taxi through. So like if I hear an airplane coming, I'll land my quad, airplane comes through, and then I'll keep going.
That's dope. That is super dope, man. That's
Tom
like
John wants to know why you haven't done any model plane content.
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't know people really wanted it. It's the other thing with model, you need to find someone who can film, because ideally you're probably wanting flying content, right? So I need to find, if I was to do that, I would need to find someone who is really good at following a moving object, because that's one of the hardest things to find in the RC airplane world. If you watch RC airplane videos, almost all of them are terrible because the cameraman's maybe not the best.
You got a lot of guys who know how to fly drones really well.
Yeah, right. Okay, there you go. But as far as I would also like to get some chase footage. I don't know. You've popped Tom John. You've now popped the idea into me. But I do like a bunch of RC flying. I do 3D. I mean, I've started with RC airplanes when I was 10. So like I've done 3D aerobatics, 3D helicopters, foamies. Now I'm kind of into the big balsa wood stuff just because I think it's the most fun to fly. But anyhow,
there you go. You have a volunteer to film you, and we know he's good with the camera.
I was going to say James is pretty solid. So James and I need to link up and do something in Dallas. We need to make some. Once this virus is over, we need to make some good content.
Jack Fu wants to know if you have any plans for getting back at NERC for the mom pick.
No plans right now. I think the time will come, but it is definitely on the agenda.
There is a revenge agenda. It's just not planned.
It's just not planned, and I think when you plan it too much, it's not as fun. I think I'll find an opportunity. It wasn't going to happen last season. My focus in DRL last season, once I got pranked, I'm like, I just need to go out here and fly. I can't be thinking about how I'm going to get revenge on this guy. I need to think about how I'm going to win this race. So, but make no mistake, who is it, Jack Fu? Make no mistake, that revenge will come at some point.
I like that smile he had with you. Like he's just happy about it.
Yeah, he knows. He knows he's going to get him back worse.
Oh yeah.
Travis wants to know if you do any 3D fixed wing flying.
Yep, I do 3D. I'm probably not the best 3D pilot, but I can. It's hard because I need to post a video to show what my skills are. But I can do all the rolling loops, stuff like that. I'm probably not as good as some other 3D pilots, but I'd say for being an FPV, like someone who does kind of a little bit of everything, I'd say I'm pretty good. But I've done it since I was a kid, to be fair. But that's something most people don't even know, that I can do all that stuff, because I've just never, I guess, made videos. So now I'm starting to think I should make some.
There you go. Now they want to know.
Right. And then if I'm going to say that I'm good, I need to show it.
Yeah, exactly. Back it up, because you know that they're going to scrutinize you right away.
Right.
So what are some of your goals with FPV? Because it sounds like you do, like you said, a little bit of everything. So what is your goal? Like, what are you trying to accomplish with FPV?
It's a good question. For me, if you'd asked me that question probably a year and a half ago, I would have probably said, you know what, do this for a few years, travel as much as I can, have fun, meet people, experience different cultures, and then back to the real world. But now with DRL, it's I can see myself doing this for quite some time, and I don't know for sure. It's still, like, at least on the racing side of things, it's still a new sport, and it's got a lot of growth that needs to happen before it can be something that I can say I can do this for the rest of my life. But make no mistake, that is definitely a goal of mine, is to keep drone racing for at least the next few years, if not a lot longer. And and Noikle, yep, that is me. I'm Alex Vanover. He's trolling me. He's trolling me. I know. So, but anyhow,
Billy
but yeah,
Hackett
that's my goal.
Sorry, I thought Jake did that, and then
No,
I
you're
thought
good,
you were
you're
done
good.
your goal. Billy
Sorry.
wants to know if you like being part of Rotor Riot.
Oh yeah, it's fun for me. I think, to be honest, I was always a big fan of like Flight Test, and then when Rotor Riot came around, I was a huge fan of Rotor Riot. Back in the early days, and still to this day. So like in early 2018, I got to come along on a few episodes, which no one probably remembers any of those episodes, but they were a lot of fun for me, getting to hang out with Drew and Bardwell and them. Like that was a dream come true for me. And they're like really inspired me to push my flying to the next level. And that's what I love about being part of Rotor Riot the most, is because anytime I'm there, especially if it's Drew and I, we're just constantly pushing ourselves to be better than the next person, but in a fun, competitive way. And it really takes our flying up another notch. So I love it. And I think the content creation, everything is super fun. And I think everyone on the team right now has like the same desires, and we all see eye to eye, which makes it just so much fun to be a part of. And I can't wait for this virus to be over. We can get together and make some more content.
So that actually brings me to a question that I've been aching to ask you, style or whatever here. And
yeah,
like, excuse my language, but holy shit, it is so insanely smooth and everything. Do you think that the racing freaking like made you this smooth, or did it, or how did you get into the freestyle stuff? Was it Drew, or how did that happen?
This is the biggest misconception that I think people in FPV don't know. I've been into FPV quad since 2014, like all the way back to like doing it with 1.3 gigahertz. I saw Sharpoo freestyling, so I started freestyle. And to be honest, the only reason I wanted to fly FPV was for freestyle. And as you guys understand, it's really hard to get sponsors. And like at 15 years old, it was impossible to afford the gear. But then I saw DRL on YouTube, it was YouTube, like the very first episode of DRL. And then I'm like, oh wait, I'm really a competitive person, check. And I'm pretty good at flying, check. And I could see myself working my way to being here and getting sponsors. And then the part of the goal was the long-term goal is to race, to build a name for myself, and then go into freestyle. And then what ended up happening was now I do both. But I've always been a freestyle pilot, and I attribute my smoothness not from racing, but from the fact that I did freestyle beforehand. And when I just don't like extraneous movements on the sticks, so like I always try and fly as smooth as I possibly can.
This is
that
like
video you're watching,
ridiculous smooth. I'm going to tell you that right now. Like it is ridiculous smooth. And then you have insane close calls with trees, poles, everything. Do you think the racing helped with your freestyle, or the freestyle helped with your racing?
It goes 50-50. So the racing taught me to fly through gaps. The freestyle taught me how to fly smooth while I race. And that now the skills, every time I do one or the other, my skills at both increase. And I think it's very important. If you want to be the best at one thing, if you want to be the best at freestyle, or you want to be the best at racing, you need to fine tune your skills in every aspect of flying. And so that's also why I freestyle. But more or less, I just do it for fun because I enjoy it. I will say, being part of Rotor Riot, one thing Drew pushed me to do was to do more freestyle. So I will say it did definitely increase, and I think my level of freestyle like quality increased being around people like Drew and some of the other guys, like watching them. But having a racing background, I think really, really helped, because it wasn't a problem flying through gaps or flying fast.
And I noticed you got a lot of that Drew flow too, with trees and everything like that. Like I haven't seen Drew fly in a while, like that. Anyways, that was full hearted. Like, I'm sorry, that was. I guess it's this way. That was nuts, and I absolutely love it. I want to fly like that. You know what I mean? So
but yeah, really quick before this next question, because I just saw it pop up, I want to make a note. That video you watched, Evolution of Flow. Fun fact: that was filmed the day after I lost the national championship last November to Evan Turner. That was the day after. I was super emotional, of course, and
dude,
I sat on that
footage. Tell.
Yep, and you can tell it in my flying. Freestyle is all emotion for me, and I sat on that footage for probably about 4 or 5 months, and then finally coronavirus came around. I was going through hard drives, and I'm like, I totally forgot I had this. because I was so moody at the time. I'm like, I thought all my flying was garbage, and then I was like, "This is great."
Are you using anything like Hypersmooth or anything like that on that?
No, no Hypersmooth. It's just all straight off the Tune Quad. This is a fun like this is a whole other topic, but Drew knows how picky I am with my freestyle quads. Like I will get it, not like rage fits, but I get so picky about my freestyle quad. Like I fly Betaflight, but like I'll do whatever it takes just to get smooth. Like if it's a race quad, I want performance. If it's a freestyle quad, I want no vibrations in the GoPro feed and as little prop wash as possible. I don't care if the quad feels like a potato. I just want smooth video without hypersmooth. I cannot stand hypersmooth videos. I can't. I can watch a video and tell if it's got hypersmooth because it just doesn't. There's things that don't look.
It's
natural.
not natural movements. So,
yeah. And I'm sorry if I sound like a fanboy. It's just that was incredible.
No, that's awesome. I'm glad you like it. Like with hypersmooth, you see people and they like do split S's where they're like you're gonna see their quads are gonna have prop wash. So like it's cool to see people like Johnny who when they're doing freestyle, they're flying around the prop wash and you can tell that they are versus you can tell someone's using hypersmooth because they just fly the quad into prop wash and there's no I'm like, oh like that's lame. Like but anyhow, that's I could go on and on about that.
So Lenozo's question's there for you. And there's a part 2 to it.
When you fly the Racer 4 on DRL, is throttle always pinned like in the simulator? What differences do you realize? Yes, it is always pinned, but not as much. My style's changed. You do pin it, but I think if you pin it the entire time, there's a big misnomer that that's going to make you go faster because the reality is you need to fly the correct racing lines. One thing I learned at the end of last season was like apexing turns and stuff. Sometimes you want to pull the power back a little bit because otherwise you full throttle in the turn and then you exit the turn slower. Gab 707 is a perfect example of flying a Racer 4 to its peak ability on like a NASCAR style track because he's full throttle in the straights, but he slows it down in the corners and nice and smooth. So it's pretty much pinned all the time. And as far as like simulator to real life, they're both pretty 1-to-1. I still don't think the simulator flies like the real quad, of course, because you can't simulate everything with the real quad. But I think if you fly the DRL simulator, because people say like, why does it not fly good? I'm like, well, it flies like a Racer 4, and I think the Racer 4 flies good. It's just not a 5-inch quad, and I think people don't realize that. It's like boxing and MMA. It's like two different sports, but they're still fighting, but it's like they're two different sports, and that's kind of like DRL to multi-GP.
And then he wants to know how your lipos don't explode.
Well, the cool thing with the Racer 4 is because we're running 7-inch props on a big 5-cell battery, the amp draw is like 35, 40 amps at full throttle. So like I can run the Racer 4 full throttle, like just wide open and fly it in circles for 2.5 minutes. So actually my DRL gear is what lasts the longest because like I have batteries from March of last year and they still fly just as good because I'll fly for 1 minute, 30 seconds and the battery's been discharged by maybe 50%. That's my favorite thing about the Racer 4 is the flight time. Like 7-inch quads, no joke, are awesome.
Bailey wants to know who you get along with the most out of the Rotor Riot team.
Definitely Drew. Drew and I hit it. Like I think somewhere middle of 2019, Drew and I really start to like hit it off versus just being like friends and cast members, like kind of like best buds. Because I would usually stay an extra day after the events, and Drew and I would just plan it out to go fly. And we just hit it off. We play a lot of Mario Kart. I kick his butt at a lot of Mario Kart. So that's really fun. And I think we get along really well. And we both have very similar goals in FPV, and that's to be the best that we both can be. And I respect that a lot.
That's dope. So would you say that you and Drew get along pretty well because you both kind of have a little bit of a cockiness to you?
Is it competitiveness or is it cockiness?
I don't think it's cockiness. I think you can definitely say that I have been a cocky person. Don't make no mistake there. But I think we just have similar goals and we see eye to eye. Like we both want to be the best that we each can be. And that's what pushes us to fly better. And when we're around each other and you see the other person taking it up a notch and vice versa, you go back and forth. And then all of a sudden we both at the end of the day have this awesome footage because we're both pushing each other and flying to our absolute peak abilities. So I don't think it's cockiness. I can see where the cockiness can come from, but make no mistake, I think it's just we both see eye to eye and we get along like good human beings, I suppose.
Jack Fu wants to know if you think Evan's your biggest challenger this season and if you're training any different for him.
That was going to be another question. Thank you.
Yes and no.
I know he's coming for you. He made that very public.
Oh yeah, 100%. Listen, I've gained a lot of respect for Evan. I'm not gonna sugarcoat this, because I want to give respect to every DRL pilot, because at the end of the day, it's like people talk about how Evan's the biggest threat. Well, guess what? I did win last season, but I also lost 4 races last season to 4 different people. So like just flat out, and I was in every single Golden Heat last year. I had every chance to win, and I only won 3 of the 7, which is a lot. Don't get me wrong, but Evan is definitely my biggest challenger. I would say that. I can't downplay that whatsoever. He's been the biggest challenger to me, or I guess it's the other way around, because he's been beating me at 5-inch races for the last year and a half, 2 years now. So DRL is a bit different, but make no mistake, I think he's already figured it out from what I've seen from his training. But it's just motivating me to keep pushing harder. I think DRL is going to even the playing field out. I think we're going to see better flying out of him, and we're going to see better flying out of me. So I'm really excited.
Formula FPV wants some practice tips for flying smoothly. Apparently I'm mixing food and flying. Smoothly and consistency. Oh my God. Consistently. I can speak, I promise, while keeping things tight.
Yeah. That's a good question. Who was I telling? I was showing someone how to fly the simulator the other day, and the biggest thing I told him is, like, you don't want to take your fingers off the controls, but like, don't touch the controls. Like, that's the biggest thing I can say. Try to be telling yourself while you're flying to just not make extraneous movements. Like, practice flying in straight lines, like as low to the ground as you can get without doing this or left and right. And you just want to be real smooth with the controls. Besides that, that just comes. I've been doing it for a long time, and I think coming from RC airplanes definitely helped. Another tip is, I always tell people, if your rates are whack, how fast the drone responds, that's not going to make it any easier. So I like low rates, because I can kind of be moving the sticks around and be a little bit more extraneous on my movements. But because my rates are so low, it's not reflected in the quad. And before anyone asks, my rates are 1.00, 0.59, and 0.01. And I'm sure that'll get asked again. So I'm going to just type it in the YouTube chat. So just so it's all good.
I can put it in the description later. What is it? 1.00.
Yep, 0.59 and then 0.01. That is my most commonly asked question, is what are my rates? What is my camera angle? It's interesting because I feel like I answered a lot, but a lot of people are curious. So,
I think people assume that if they fly with your rates, they'll fly like you to fly. I think that's why it's such a common thing.
Practice. Yeah. It definitely helps. I will say, like, you never know.
Lewis Tucker wants to know how you land the gigs to fly at drift events, film supercars, etc.
Well, I don't have any drift events, but if you know someone, let me know. It's through racing. I've been able to establish a pretty good name for myself, at least in the racing community. And then by making freestyle content, that's helped get my name out there. But honestly, the way I did it, like my first gig, I'd say, was last summer, filming big off-road trucks. I literally went to the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. I was already up in Wisconsin, to be fair, but I went to this the opening seasonal race for like off-road races in Wisconsin. And I went around for 3 days with my backpack of drones on me and just started talking to people. And I had zero luck. And then I went the second time for the championship and literally ran into a guy. His name is Jason, but it doesn't matter what his last name is. And he is like the producer, live stream producer for Red Bull. And he's like, oh, well, let's see what you got on practice day. He had no problem with me. Like, he's like some random kid. I showed him like who I was. He's like, boys, they're not just putting some random kid out there to fly with a toy drone. And then they were impressed with my stuff. And then they basically hired me on the spot there to film for the weekend. And we attached a live stream thing to my drone. So like literally, like my piece of advice is, like, if you have the money, you have the resources, you don't have to actually go to the events, but just put your name out there, make cool videos, have some sort of resume. But also, like, I wanted to do something that no one else had done. I had seen no one chasing these off-road trucks, and I wanted to be the first to do that. So, like, if you go to a drift event, everyone knows Johnny, everyone knows, like, Nub FPV. It's going to be harder to get filming gigs at events like those. So try and think out of the box is my best piece of advice. Try and think out of the box. And there's my video, too. So, sick.
Oh, goodness. There we go.
Fiddy. It's probably Fiddy. Fiddy FPV. I'm assuming I'm saying it right. Wants to know where you think you're going to be in 10 years, career-wise.
Good question. If I am not racing drones, I'm going to go in this order because this is my ideal order. If I'm not racing drones, which would be my goal, then I will either be in the drone industry in some sorts. It's been a blessing to have some offers as far as up as the military, and then in the civilian world doing like agricultural stuff, like to be a test pilot and all that. There's those options, which are kind of like my fallback. And if I'm not doing those, then I'll probably be doing something real flying related, whether it's like flying corporate or airline or something like that. But we'll see. I always like to say this because if everyone doesn't know, I'm a Christian. So like I always believe that the Lord's plan is better than my plan. So I'm just trying to work as hard as I can and set myself up as best as I can. So like that's what I've tried to do, is give myself as many fallbacks as I can. But it'll be something flying related. Lord willing, we'll see.
Jack Fu sent you an invite that you can go fly the Trucks Gone Wild mud races with them if you want. Sweet.
Yeah, I'm totally going to forget that. And that's not personally. I just send me a DM on Facebook, and I'll make sure to check him tonight. So thank you. I appreciate that.
There we go. The questions of Slow Jig. Hammer away.
Oh, man. All right. So, like, now I get put on the spot. I don't know what I'm going to ask. So, with your rates, I know you have most people have flying rates, and most people have freestyle rates. Do you use both you use the same rates for both?
Yep, I do. And this is because I'm doing so much of racing and freestyle comparatively. And also, to be honest, I would have no problem flying different rates for my freestyle quad. I just don't see the need to fly different rates. I don't do tricks or anything. If you watch my videos that require ultra fast rates, and I can roll my freestyle quad really fast just by putting in some yaw. If I need to do a really quick trick, I have not found. Last year's freestyle rates were a bit slower. I was like, now I'm in the 500 degree a second mark. Last year I was flying like low 400s. So like there were a few times where like I felt like the rate wasn't enough, but then my racing rates also increased. So like, no, I fly the same, and that makes it super easy to go back and forth between the two.
That is very good to know. Cool. So it's like you know how to use your arm, don't change your arm type thing. That was a horrible analogy, but yes.
Maybe not the best analogy, but I got what you were saying.
If your bike seat's at the right height, don't change your bike seat. How about that?
That's good. That's a good one too.
Who's your favorite pilot ever? I wanted to ask that one. Out of everyone ever.
Johnny, FPV. Anyone who knows me, like personal family, knows I love Johnny. He is. I can go on and on and on, and I will, because Johnny is literally there. He has an ability on the controls that you don't see with any other pilot. Like if you go, and I think I've appreciated his flying more now. Like if you go back and watch his freestyle stuff from 2017, 2018, it is greater than anything. Like, okay, I get people do these cool tricks through buildings. Like that's cool. Don't get me wrong. Like that's cool freestyle. But for me, like watching the way he can maneuver a quad from 2018 and fly it around prop wash and everything, and just like the flow, like you can tell there's a very artistic mindset while he's flying. And I've tried to be that creative, and I definitely mimic a lot of his flying style. So Johnny is my favorite. And I think the stuff that he's doing now he's the only, like every time he posts a video, and I just feel like I feel like he posts every 4 months, right? So like I feel like I get close, and then he posts a video, and it's like, oh dang it. But it's inspiring because he's out there, and he is right now arguably the face of FPV cinematic. I know there's Steele, and I think Steele is probably my tied for number one, if not number two favorite FPV pilots, because I think he can fly a quad on that same level as well. Just different style, of course, but like those two, I'll give both of these guys the credit to Johnny and Steele. They're both out there, and they're both the face of FPV, freestyle, and cinematic right now. And that people don't give those guys enough credit, because those guys are anyone who's in FPV right now who wants to try and get filming jobs and stuff. I mean, obviously you got competition, but like those guys are out there, and they're the face of the industry right now. And they're doing a very good job at it. So
100%.
Johnny's my favorite. Steele's a close second. This is going to sound fanboy or biased, but I think Drew's up there as well. I think Drew's also one of those guys who, like, the way he flies, he's got a very unique style, and I really like that.
Kat, I have to do it.
What?
Boom! From our conversation earlier about Johnny. Oh.
Yeah. I know who he is. Don't leak anything. Shush. Fermez la bouche. We'll talk later. So, Mason Storm wants to know how someone can get a top mount race frame.
Good question. I was flying a top mount race frame for a few months, kind of over the winter. I made even a post about it. I was certain that was going to be the frame I flew. But that's on hold right now. I still prefer the way top mount flies. I think that is the best, like a particular top mount frame I was flying by a guy named Corey Ibanez, which I know Neukel's in the chat. Any of the racers are gonna know who he is. He's one of the best engineers and PID tuners, like the smartest guys in drone racing, and very fast as well. I think I'm gonna try and talk Evan and Mondo over at 523 into bringing that design by the end of the year. There it is, right there, the Corey frame, but it's not for sale publicly, so that's a problem. I think Jet FPV from DRL. He's working on a new version of a top mount frame, which I don't know if it's specifically for racing, but I think it'll be light enough to where you can race it, and it's a top mount, and it's sick. And all this stuff is very durable as well, which I can appreciate. But if you want top mount frame, bug Evan Amondo over at 523, because I would love to see by the end of the year the like Corey Ibanez style top mount True X frame with the battery on top and everything like stack on the bottom. I'd love to see that.
Do you have any post-secondary education goals?
Absolutely, but I don't know if I'll do them. It just depends where life takes me. I would definitely like to go back to college, and I'm not exactly sure for what. I have a few ideas, maybe ministry, maybe meteorology, but it would be one of those two things if I went back. We'll just see where it fits in my life. College is a lot of time, as anyone who's been to college knows. I did 2 years of dual credit. But like actually on a college campus doing aviation mechanics. And honestly, I did it just because I wanted to get out of physical high school, but I had a lot of fun. And you know what? It was a lot of work at the same time. And I know based on the amount of work I'm doing right now with drone racing, it'd be really hard to also do college, but we'll see what happens in the next few years. But if I stopped drone racing tomorrow, I would probably go back to school in the fall.
Oh, that actually leads me to another question I have. Sorry, Jake, I'm going to say it first just because it rolls right in. I wanted to know, if you could only do one for the rest of your life, would you do freestyle or would you do racing?
Ooh, good question.
Sorry, Jake, it tied in.
No,
that's a good question. You know what? I'm asking my gut what it thinks. My gut's not telling me an answer. I'm gonna say freestyle, and here's why. I enjoy just the as much as I love the competition of racing. It would depend. Like as a career wise, racing all day long. I don't see besides filming a career in freestyle. So like, if I was to give a factual answer, I'd say racing. But if it was just like, let's pretend that money and everything, it wasn't a job, and I was just choosing one or the other, I'd choose freestyle. I started FPV because of freestyle, and even though I've evolved into racing and gone back and forth, I would still do freestyle.
That makes sense. I think that's a fair answer too. I think money, I'm sure, is an influence for a lot of people, like the ability to sustain the hobby at all, right?
Yes, very much, very much. So it's very much.
Sorry, Jake, throw that one out. That question that you had.
I forgot.
You're not ready? It's right here.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Did you try the tiny trainer, Alex? Yes, I did. It's actually about to be shipped to the next review pilot. If anyone doesn't know, the tiny trainer is basically a baby version of a Racer 4, that 523 design. It's pretty sick. It definitely flies like a scaled down version of Racer 4, so take that as you will. But it's really fun. It's very durable. The thing's a tank. I was flying it inside the hangar here, and like without the airplane. And I hit the walls and stuff. I mean, some loud bangs. That quad held up. So I feel sorry for the next person who's going to get that quad. But you know what? It's pretty fun. I'll definitely be building one of those. And I think working with HQ Prop, they did like an actual. They used the prop material and they made a canopy for it now, and I think that's super cool. And I think if I can build one with like LEDs on the inside and make it like the disco drone on DRL, I think that'd be sick. So it flies good though. It's fun to fly.
So instead of printing multiple prototypes, they have one that they're sending to all of you to share, kind of thing. Like you're taking turns.
Yeah, there's two. There's two I think that are out there, 2 or 3. And I think Armando built them. And yeah, I think Noikal says in the chat I'm the next guy. So yeah, I feel bad though because he's gonna push it the hardest out of anyone I've seen fly it. In my opinion, I think on a whole nother topic. I'm not saying this because I'm plugging Noikal, but I think he's gonna be one of those next multi-GP champions based on his 5-inch flying. But he's literally going to destroy that thing. If anyone can do it, he will destroy it.
That's kind of good though.
Yeah,
like to me,
said there.
If they're like, hey, this frame went through this person, this person, this person, this person, and we just have a little bit of delamination or like something minor, it just shows how efficient the frame is, right? Because I've had people that are like, that frame's garbage, and then other people can fly that frame for a year with no problems.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's a good point. I didn't even really think about that for some reason. But yeah, the fact that it's going through, in my opinion, I think Propsicle FPV's tried it. I've tried it. Obviously, Evan's tried it. Noikel's going to try it. If it can survive, it survived everyone thus far. If it can survive him,
that's a solid frame.
That's a solid frame because like we've all beaten it pretty bad. Tiny trainer is switchback for getting race practice in. Depends on what you're doing. If you're practicing for a micro race, then the tiny trainer. I like the switchback frame. I think it's for the weight. It's the most durable 5-inch frame you can find. I have busted stuff up, don't get me wrong, but it's also a 270-gram quad. So like people have the wrong, like if you want a good race frame to practice with, you know, if you want something that's not going to break, someone was talking about it, put the SFGs on, which are like these side plates, side force generators or whatever, and the thing's going to be impossible to break. But I'm going to sound so biased because I do fly the frame, but it is really, really durable, and it's unless you're just flying it full throttle into a gate, it's going to be really hard to break.
I think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Jake, what else
it's like it's like a Formula 1 car.
I was actually looking for Vanover's freestyle frame on drone racing parts here real quick.
It's not on drone racing part. I think it's only on FPV Flight Club.
Flight Club. That's where it was. I'm assuming that's the one that you use, right?
I do. I have one. It's actually got the motors off it right now, but that's it's funny because I should promote the frame more. I promoted it when it came out a lot, of course, but it's funny because I wanted my sponsor to make this for me. But I knew based on what I wanted, like it wouldn't look special, even though there's a lot of special stuff in the design, at least that fits my style of building. Like it's got one screw to hold the arms on. It's got an aluminum plate with notches. So like all the arms slide into place very nicely. And it's also 100 grams with all the hardware. And it's just a simple, it's not this like custom squished frame or anything like that. But I'll tell you what, this is almost 10, 11 months old. It would be 11 months old now. So like this frame right here, the carbon is not delaminated or anything on it. This is one of the prototypes. But honestly, when this was designed, I wanted it just because I wanted a frame personally because I wasn't happy with anything else on the market. So it was never intended to sell, but of course we're selling it. And we're selling it for basically the cost to make it. It's $50. There it is.
I was going to say so it's cheap, and I was going to ask, why is it so cheap?
Yep. Because I'm not trying to make money on it. To just be honest, like
because he doesn't think
and that's why I'm not promoting it as well. Because here's the thing, like I know we've sold quite a few. I wouldn't say like as many as like obviously like an Impulse Apex because that's my fault not promoting it or being the top freestyle pilot. But here's the reality, like this frame right here, I'll just spoil this for everyone watching this. This is the same exact carbon as an Impulse Apex. Based on what we understand goes into the Apex frame and like some of the other top frames. And by the way, I think the Apex is great. I actually have one up here that a friend gave me. But anyhow, like those frames, which retail for like $150, They cost the same money to make as this frame right here. The exact same. The only maybe $5 more for the injection molded pieces and stuff, and that's
That
about
makes
it.
me feel
So
really
I don't
bad.
see like. So like, here's the
kidding.
thing, right? It's like racing frames used to be $90, $100 frames, and I was fine with that because that means people are making money. But then, not going to point fingers, but someone started selling racing frames for $35, which is like $2 over cost. Freestyle has not done that because people want to make a lot of money and people will pay a lot of money for a freestyle frame. I didn't slash the price to try and disrupt the market. I slashed the price because I don't see why people should be paying more than $60, $75 for a high quality freestyle frame. And I just couldn't feel good about selling a frame that literally costs $40 to make. Like it doesn't, and it's a solid frame. Like it's carbon fiber and hardware, people. It's not the craziest thing in the world. It's not a cure for cancer.
I noticed on the frame here actually that you have toilet tank style ability on that frame as well.
Yes.
Do you fly toilet tank
amen.
or do you fly?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, I do. And here's the best part about toilet tank on this frame. So if you run your battery strap through, or the battery lead through the hole in the back right there, you put your battery sideways here. You got your GoPro right here. It's all squished together. The CG is directly on the gyro of your flight controller, unless you have some weird flight controller. And if you have like the batteries I use are Thunder Power batteries. So if with a Thunder Power battery and this much cable, you plug it in and it will not get into the props. It 11 months flying it will not get into the props. And the battery also doesn't eject in the crash. So you just keep going. You just keep going. It's great.
Well,
yeah, it's scary. Thanks for plugging my frame more than I have in the last 3 months.
Sorry, I had
now
to.
They're gonna sell out, and I won't be able to get one.
I like the blue on it, and I really hope I get this soon.
Yep. Royal Mackenzie wants to know if you still get excited to meet any of the top pilots, or have you met them all?
I definitely get excited. There's still, I pretty much met everyone by this point. But I just enjoy being around Jake. No, one thing, the drone community is really weird. You know, it's like any other community, it has its highs and its lows, in terms of people and their opinions. But I think these events that we do and stuff like Rotor at Rampage I just made a post about that on Facebook. That was a year and a half ago now, maybe 2 years ago now. And that event was like almost every top pilot that I knew. And it was just so cool to see all these people. Like I knew a lot. I went to that event and I flew 2 batteries over 3 days. I just enjoyed hanging out with everyone. Like it was so much fun. I think when people get off of Facebook and just are in person, I think the people in our community are actually really loving people when they're not on Facebook. So I enjoyed to answer the actual question that was presented. I enjoy it still because it's like for example, one person I just talked about, like who was my favorite pilot. Like anytime I can be around like Johnny and Still, I fanboy up quite a bit because those guys are some of the guys that motivate me to push harder and harder.
I think that's fair though, and everyone has like goals and people they look up to.
Ooh, your FPV trip of a lifetime, where would you go and who all would be there with? That's a big question. Let me start off by saying where I would go. There's a bunch of, I have a whole list of places, but you know, as simple as it sounds, I'd really want to go to the Pacific Northwest just because I've never been there. But Mount Shasta, Northern California is the farthest I've been in the Pacific Northwest. I would love to do a whole Pacific Northwest and come to Montana, come to Idaho and go to all those areas. And my plan is, my plan was I was going to I don't want to spoil it, but try and do a road trip with some of the Road Riot guys for 4 weeks throughout the Pacific Northwest area, Montana and all that, like Wyoming. But I don't know how that is all purely talk. That is not a planned thing, everyone who's watching this. That's just an idea. And if that was a U.S. trip, yep. And I'd like to do it with people like Drew, some of the other FPV pilots that I know. You know, it's fine. There are some FPV pilots that I wouldn't want to do it with, not anything personal, but it's just like, as we all know, being human, that like you get tired of people really quick. Even when I go to like DRL events, we were in Singapore and I was with Jet and all them for 2 weeks. And by the end of those 2 weeks, I was tired of seeing those people. And nothing personal. I've heard all the sarcasm. I've heard all the jokes. I'm just like ready to go home.
You're more of an introvert though, it sounds like. Like you like your space. You're okay with being at home and doing your own thing. And You don't like having to entertain per se.
Yeah, like I don't need to be entertained. I entertain myself fairly well. I do need people, I guess. I was talking with someone about this the other day, like introvert, extrovert, and all that. But like I can entertain myself fairly well. So, but I do like people, and I just have a time limit with people. Like I need to, LOL, social distance myself. That's gonna be a meme for years now. But I do have to social distance myself every now and then, just because like I get tired out of being around people. Like I need a day to myself just to like do my things, even if it's racing or flying or whatever, watching TV. Doesn't
just
matter.
Not having to follow a schedule in general, right?
You know, the schedule's not the thing. Like I actually enjoy schedule because like otherwise it's just chaos. But sometimes I like chaos. It just depends. Like I said, I'm every statement I make is going to be hypocritical to the next. So it just depends. I just need a break from people in general. It doesn't have to be like off a schedule. But how many batteries do you fly per week? When I'm recently doing DRL, I'll say two things. My goal has been at least 1,000. I've been slacking in hitting about 600 to 700, which people are gonna go, whoa, like Jake's going, whoa. But here's the reality: like someone asked me earlier, like, what are you doing differently with Evan on there now? Flying more and trying to figure out. I need to fit because I think this season of DRL, for example, is going to come down to the wire more times than ever. It's not. I don't foresee there being a lot of crashes, and that's the result of a race. Like I foresee it being very tight battles, like in Formula One, where it's like to the inch, every tiny inch and turn matters. It's not based on luck, which I think drone racing has been a lot about consistency in the past few years. Like the last multi-GP championships have shown me that like it's coming down like the top pilots like Evan and I are finishing races. We're not crashing out. It's just who's faster and who's not. So like I see that happening in DRL. So that's why I fly so much. Last year when I was training for DRL for 3 months in the summer, I was flying 7 days a week. This is no exaggeration, no joke. Ask Nub, ask Flexi, ask Bob Mazza, who I was living with in Wisconsin. I would get up in the morning, fly all day, maybe eat lunch, and then like I was just going crazy, mad stir crazy. And I was flying 140, 150 batteries a day, every single day.
Now, did you get tired of it though?
No, that was the weird thing. I didn't get tired of it, but I'll tell you what, I was motivated. Like I just gone back from my first 2 DRL events, and I knew what I needed to work on. Because before you go to DRL, even if like, I do think Evan has a little bit of an advantage because like I've told him maybe more than I should have about how different it is. But DRL itself is just a whole different experience. Like it's not even about the tracks and the quads. Everything is different about DRL. It's like walking into it's like walking into your first drone race. It really is. Doesn't mean you're not going to do well because like I did very well at my first race. It's just really different. So like I didn't know how to prepare. So like I came back from my first 2 DRL events and like I had the summer before the next 2. Like I just grinded and there were days, don't get me wrong, where like I didn't really want to fly, but I was pushing myself to fly because I was motivated and I wanted to be the very best. And I knew how hard everyone else was training. And I wanted to train harder than everyone else. So that's that. And now it broke me though, because in the winter I just stopped flying. I was so out. Like I took all of December, almost all of January, and honestly I haven't really gotten back into. I mean, I kept myself flying to stay current, but like, no, I'd say like it definitely. I was burned out of it during the winter, but now I'm like with Evan on there, and now with some of the other DRL pilots who they're about to announce. Like I am more fired up than I've ever been.
I'll fly 20 packs in a day, and I'll go home with a headache, and I'm just like,
really. It's different though. Awesome. Here's the reality. Thank you. It's different because in freestyle, I will fly maybe 15 batteries, and that's a lot of batteries in a freestyle session. It's different. In freestyle, you're not flying the same thing over and over. You're being creative, so your mind works differently. When I'm practicing for DRL, I'm flying the same course for 1 minute and 10 seconds at a time. So even if I'm flying 150 batteries, I would say like when you do freestyle, you're flying 3 to 5 minutes, and then maybe you have to go get your quad when you crash because you try to do a tree dive or something. It's 2 completely different things. So if you're flying 20, I think if people are flying 20 batteries for freestyle, that's a lot of batteries.
Dude,
that's equivalent to like 60 race packs.
Yeah, summer days we do I think 20, 30 in the day too. If we're at a 6 spot
Yeah.
and we're just going like literally from sunrise till sunset.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a lot of flying.
I think it's just a mindset though. Like personally, I can play sim and do racing stuff, but my ADD attention for that's maybe an hour, maybe, and then I'm bored of it.
Yeah.
Like I just can't do it anymore. Freestyle, I feel like because it's constantly different, I focus on it more. So I think it's just like you have the ability to enter both realms and you can mesh and mold into both. And then someone like me, I'm just very fucking pig-headed. So I can't do the racing as well as I can focus on the freestyle.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, your racing vids, like the DVR of you, I can't tell which direction you're going in those things 90% of the time because you're going so damn fast. Those things just boom, blow my mind. And I've looked at yours, and I've looked at who's that? Min Chan, I think is what his name is.
Min Chan,
and then oh man, why can't I think of his last name?
Min Chan Kim, Heads Up FPV.
Heads up. And they just make me queasy sometimes. I can only watch for about 30 seconds because you guys are just going. So I want to say something real quick. Do that.
It's crazy, right? I want to say one thing I want to note because I know there's some people obviously in the chat and whatnot. When it comes to 5-inch racing, you mentioned Min Chan Kim. I know this is like going to offend some people in the chat. There is no one better at 5-inch racing at this very moment. I'm not talking about the fastest all-out pilot, but there is no better 5-inch racer in the world than Min Chan Kim. Period. There is, and I've accepted defeat in some ways because like I have beaten Min Chan one time and I've lost 10 times. But here's the thing: like that kid, his DVR videos, he flies like that at the actual races, and he is so good that he can go to a race with you, and he can fly just maybe a hair faster than you, and it makes you think like, man, I got a chance. I'm only 0.1 seconds off of Min Chan, and he's literally holding back. Like he will make you believe that he is just pushing as hard as he can. He's holding back at 80%, and I've seen him destroy he went through me. The only time I beat him was because he crashed. Is the only reason. And it was a very, very lucky incident for me. Like he raced Evan. I don't mean to downplay Evan because Evan, was giving him a run for his money, but like Min Chan went through him. I know Noiko's in the chat right now. I think there's people who have gone faster, like on the sticks, like for a DVR video, but I've never seen anyone at a race perform as well as Min Chan Kim does. And anytime that he doesn't win a race, it is just out of bad luck. And that's just drone racing. Like he wins more races than he loses, and he wins huge, huge races. He's a beast. Yep. I love those comments from Evan Turner's dad, Kevin, and Noiko. Yep. So I just want to put that out there because I think if you guys haven't seen Min Chan Kim's videos, you need to go see him. I agree, Jack. Like he will makes us all look like plebs. I mean, there's no other way to put it. So anyhow, and yes, Evan's quad did explode. I agree, Noiko, and he's referencing a race between Min Chan and him in New Jersey where Evan's quad failed midair. But and I don't mean to. And this is the reality. If you are at the end of the day, if your gear fails, that's your fault. You can't use that as an excuse. Like when Min Chan lost to me at another event, it was because his quad died. But even Min Chan was like, my quad failed. It's my fault, right? So like I think you have to accept that. Like it's different in DRL because the quads are all the same. But like if it's 5-inch racing, it's your gear. You're responsible for that. That's your fault. But that's gonna stir up some drama, I'm sure.
No, I appreciate the honesty, dude. That's so cool.
Yeah, I'll call myself out on it too. Like it's at the end of the day, if you're building your quads and your quad fails, you can't say you blame the fact you lost the race on the fact your quad exploded. It's your fault. Period. End of speech. I've been one to throw excuses out in the past, but I've been admitting to them when I do, and that's just it's not a fair excuse to. It's not fair to like the other competitor, for example. Like it's not fair to Min Chan to say, well, my quad exploded. So and stuff like that, and vice versa. Like to me. So hey, Vanover, that P51 Mustang build. That is not a P51 Mustang. That is a Vans RV4. It looks like a P51 because it's kind of the RV4 was designed to be very similar to the P51. Like they call it a poor man's P51. So.
I can't even look them up.
I'm sorry, I'm reading chat. There's so much going on.
No, I was just looking at that one. That one's pretty funny.
I won't lie. I literally study MCK with a pen and paper. Dude, I was very blessed. I got to go spend 3 months with him over in Korea in 2018, and I was like racing on the same team as him. He is, I think, forget the racing side of things. He's a really good kid. He's one of the funniest people you ever meet in person. He's a troll. He will troll you. He'll be like, "Oh, my English is bad." His English is really good. He just like acts like stupid. Like he just will act stupid because he can. But anyhow, there was a race that Vanover was talking smack to Minche. He pushed so hard that all Alex did was go out of him at one of my favorite FPV moments. Yeah,
I remember that video too.
In 2018. Yep, there was a video, 2018 DR1. That's a Minchen video. Yeah, I can't even keep up with it.
I had to.
There was a time when the first time I raced Minchen in a series, DR1 was different because DR1 was high speed. Like I knew as a competitor, I'm like the only way I'm going to beat Minchen at that point in time was with a faster quad, and we did have faster quads than Minchen on flight 1. So I called him out to a race at the end of the season in DR1, and we did the call out race, and I had the faster quad, and I flew into like the third gate. Like, and there was no competition. It was like he beat me, and then he proceeded to go on. And if anyone wants to see the single most impressive piece of flying I've ever seen in the state, you need to go look up the 2018. It's on Minchen's Instagram, but I don't know where you look at it. Like 2018 DR1 Minchen Cam versus Vanover. That's at Evan's yard, by the way. That video you just pulled up, Jake. That's Evan Turner's yard. That's Heads Up FPV's yard.
That makes me so nauseous. Like you guys are so quick at those turns and everything. How much do you practice a track before having it that smooth?
That was battery number 8. I only flew 8 batteries when I was on that trip at his yard. Actually like racing them. And honestly, that yard, I can see why Evan's so good at 5-inch racing because that yard is insanely hard to fly in. It is really that yard. I don't think people realize how small that yard is. Like I had no idea until I pulled up and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is like tiny. So it makes you have to just be so quick and responsive to everything happening. I was happy to go that fast. Like that was as fast as I could probably have pushed it that day. And you can tell I'm a bit sloppy here and there, but it is what it is.
Whew.
Watching him race in person puts things into perspective. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, even though you did misspell my last name. I'll forgive you on that
one. Vancouver's a good place.
It's autocorrect.
To be fair.
Yeah, to be fair.
Lenozo's
You're Canadian. Have you seen Letterkenny?
Of course, I've seen Letterkenny. We don't talk like that though. Well, that's like the very north or the very east.
I was gonna say, but you've said a few things like
I know.
A boat, like and I can definitely hear it. But like Letterkenny, I actually don't watch. I didn't watch much of that show because I think there's a lot of good content in that show. But there's some sayings from Letterkenny. I just like love
Pitter patter. Let's get at her.
Yeah, it's like to be fair.
We say to be fair a lot. That's like the British influence, I guess, right? Because obviously we're still right. British ruled technically. Let's see. There you go. Alex, you work on your airplanes yourself, or do you have someone who works on them for you?
If you're talking about RC airplanes, I do all the building and everything like that. Real airplanes, you have to be a certified mechanic to do a lot of the work. The only thing I'll do is like the oil change and just basic stuff. By the way, in the video Jake pulled up, there's a nice good old crash at the very end. That was mid DRL season last year. That day I flew the most batteries. I finally flew 150 batteries in one day. I was literally running from my charger to my quad. I had like all my chargers going at 7 amps. Battery comes straight up the quad, straight on the charger, and all day long. But that was probably when I started to get a grasp of the Racer 4, because that thing's it flies better than almost any quad I've ever flown, but it is very heavy. and you have to, if you can see, I'm kind of like bobbling a little bit every now and then. That's just, you're kind of managing that weight. And if you listen to the sound, like it's just all full throttle. It's just pegged.
Yeah, I remember. I think in one of the episodes with Rhoda Wright, you were talking about it, and it's just a heavy pig. So,
yeah,
but it's
insane.
It's not
like underpowered.
Still going crazy fast.
Here it goes, and boom. That actually really hurt that quad. That really hurt that quad. That was like broken shell and everything. It was pretty bad.
Nicely done.
Mason wants to know if aren't the top mount race frames just the Fat 5 frame flipped over?
I don't know for sure. That's a question for maybe Noikle knows that in the chat. I think he actually might have answered that. I don't know. That's a question for him or Fat Kid FPV or Core Ibanez. I'm not. It would make sense if it was, or if at least it was similar because they're both designed by Corey. That was my first official trip with Rotor Ride. That was when Drew asked me. Oh, not my first trip with Rotor Ride. That was when Drew asked me if I wanted to be a part of the team back in February of 2019, probably. This is like probably the beginning. If you start watching those videos and then you start going to like present day, this is when I started to really try and refine my freestyle. Like there's still like, you can tell like I'm a racing pilot, but I had an eye for what I needed. I wanted my freestyle to look like. This was just the beginning of me refining it.
See, I love your Vanny roll. I love your Vanny roll. I can't get it that detailed.
People make fun of it. I knew it was going to get made fun of because like it's just you turn backwards and you do a roll, but it's like a juicy flick. There's just a style to it, and I think I hadn't seen anyone else do it.
That brings me to something. Okay, I've done this. My son actually did it. He's 14 now, almost 14. But integrate a juicy flick into the Vanny roll instead of the roll, and it puts you facing forward again. It is so sick.
Interesting, huh?
There's
a few different combinations I've been doing on a simulator for like entrances and exits to like that roll. I just need to get out and do it with the freestyle quad and see if I can do it in real life. But what flight controllers these days? I'm running I've been running the Brain FPV Radix since probably July or August of last year. I was flying Flight 1 for 2 years primary till then. And then as far as DJI, it's interesting, Kevin. Most of my freestyle quads are analog right now. But that's out of laziness. I have a few air units laying around. I just haven't popped in quads, mainly because there's two versions of my personal freestyle frame. One is HD and one is non. And I only have one of the HD versions, and I use that strictly for filming. So like I don't dirty the quad up. That's just laziness, Kevin. The other thing too that I don't like about DJI is just like the size, the goggles and everything. For me, I'm not a fan of it. So like for me, freestyle, I like unless I haven't had an issue. Like when Drew and I go flying, like I haven't had an issue flying in any of the spots. Yeah, you fly through static sometimes and stuff. But if I'm flying through static, then he's flying through latency. And I would much rather fly through static than latency. The only time I really like DJI personally is if it's now with the live stream abilities with the new update. And also if it's a Cinewhoop, because the Cinewhoop, you want to see every detail around you and you're not going fast. So who cares about the latency at that point?
Minnie wants to know what batteries you recommend for racing and freestyle.
There's two brands. I prefer the Thunder Powers. If you have the money to spend, they're 5-10% better performance, which doesn't sound like a lot. Maybe 5% better performance for a $50 6-cell battery. But I've been flying them since 2017. They're actually now my longest living sponsor. So hats off to them for support. I think they sponsor just Steel and I at this point. They're premium batteries. What they do is they take the cells and they hand pick them out. So they pick out the absolute best cells, and hence that'll make your battery last a lot longer and produce a lot more power. And they're also very lightweight, which most people don't realize that. So you're paying a pretty penny and you're getting a great battery. And for anyone who thinks I'm saying that because I'm sponsored, I bought 10 of those batteries before I won the national championship in 2017. Just because I thought they were the best, and then they offered me a sponsorship, so that was really sweet of them. Besides that, Bonka batteries, they're kind of an unknown brand, but Bonka batteries are like the same as Lumineer batteries, and that's probably my number 2. Like the N2O batteries, they're a bit heavy, but they're very powerful. Let's see. Go to VTX. I run the Rush FPV VTX. I don't know if I have one laying around, but there's one inside the quad that you're not gonna. You can kind of see it right there. It's the Rush FPV VTX. This is what I use for freestyle. It's got a UFL. It's like 500 milliwatt. It's plenty. I don't notice the difference unless it's long range between like an 800 milliwatt and a 200 milliwatt VTX. And then for racing, there's a little one. I don't have one laying around, but it's called the Rush Tank Tiny Tank, and you can see it on my social media. And if you go to my Captain Vanover on Instagram, and you go to my racing build, it's like a highlight, and you skip ahead, you'll see the VTX and all the components I use in my racing quad.
Jack Fu wants to know if you like to fly parks or bandos or buildings or forest.
Oh, that's a good question. I like tree spots. I'm not a fan of concrete. It's not. I just don't see it. Like the spot that you found, or you saw the video, Evolution of Flow. That's probably one of my favorite flying spots because you get a bit of everything. I really like that spot, and but for me, I've always liked trees, just but like good trees, not super congested together. Yeah, that's probably my go-to. And I also like water. I like the risk of flying over water. Like I just love the risk of it, even though it is a flat object. I still really love it.
It's not just a flat object, though. There's many of us that like. I'm just starting to kind of like. There's this new spot we found, and it's like a train bridge, and it's right over. I call it a river. Jake calls it a creek. And the guys were flying it all last weekend, so I'm hoping to fly it this weekend if it stops raining. And yeah, I'm flying over water like that is going to be very new to me. But it's not deep, so it's not a big risk.
I was gonna say, just test it without a GoPro. Make sure your quad doesn't like desync or fail safe or something.
Yeah, it's like waist high. It should be okay.
No, it's like a creek is.
Yeah, that's it. You'll find it.
It's a creek. It's like 5 feet wide. It's
whatever.
5 feet wide.
Whatever. It has rapid things.
We call it a crick.
You call it a crick instead of a crick? Yeah. Whatever, okay? I love it.
There's a saying for bayou. There's like if you go to the south, like the southern accent, you go to like the bayou. Like you want to go to the bayou right there. It's so bad. That's what I call the bayou. Call it the bayou. Oh,
Shane said, of all the locations you ripped, what's your favorite?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say up in Wisconsin, my best freestyle video I ever made, and it's still my #1 video on my channel. It's called The Art of Flow. And that video is located on a house property up in Wisconsin where I've been the last 3 summers. I don't know if I'll be there for the whole summer this year, but I definitely will go up there at least to visit at some point. That's where I did all my training last year in the cooler temperatures and everything. But that spot, there's nothing insanely crazy about it other than it's got a good layout of trees. And I just have found that my flying is it's just always been the best there. Besides that, there's a spot in, there's the video right there. That night, I just want to point out, I only flew 5 batteries that night. I came home, I was working at the hobby store all day, and I came home and I just built this quad. Okay, that was actually a Flight 1 build on Falco X. And that quad literally, that was its maiden flight. That clip you're watching right there, that was the maiden flight. And I just
it's the only way to do
one of the preset. I put one of the presets. So the quad had not even been crashed once. Like I put a preset tune on there and everything, and it just clicked. And the quad, this was with my motors and everything. The quad flew so amazing. I flew 6 batteries, didn't crash a single time. The next morning, I plugged that quad in, and the ESC caught on fire. And I'll be honest, like besides maybe Evolution of Flow, I have not gotten a freestyle quad. I'll give Flight 1 that much respect. I have not had a freestyle quad. When Flight 1's locked in, there's nothing like it. But it's for me, I left Flight 1 because of the inconsistency with it. But like when it's on, as you can see, there's no hyper smooth, no stabilization in that video. I mean, that quad flew.
Ian wants to know if you use the MCK 5146 props. Oh, his sound cut out.
You guys hear me?
No, you sound like a robot.
Can you hear me now?
No. This is what I was doing, Jake, to me the other day when you called me and your AirPod effed up. And I was like, you sound like a robot.
Can you hear me now?
It's getting better.
This is really interesting. We should do that through an interview.
I'm gonna mute you for a sec. Figure out your setting and then unmute when you want to test. That's so funny. I don't think we've had a show where anything went smooth the whole show. That doesn't happen.
Test, mic check.
There we go.
You're good. You're good.
All right. Well, my AirPods died, so that was convenient.
Sorry, the question's still there for you.
Do you use the? No, I use the. Maybe I'll tease it. Actually, hold on. Give me one. I'm gonna tease it.
I'm gonna tease it.
I don't think you guys are ready for this prop. Where is it actually? I'm gonna show you on the quad. I'm gonna show you. I've been told not to reveal this, but I'm gonna tease it anyway. This is I'm doing what I should be. This is my.
Oh no! What just happened? There. That's what we were trying to do. You're good. Your screen went away when you were trying to show it. Now you're full screen.
Sweet. Yep, I'm gonna tease you. These are the Azure Power Vanny props. I've been flying MCK props like when I'm not flying these, just because they fly very similar and I'm using them as like a comparison tool. But these are the Azure props. They're coming very, very soon. I'd say within the next few months, probably maybe in the next month if we're lucky, in different colors and everything. I'm not going to talk much about them other than they kind of fly in between MCK props and heads-up FPV props, but they have the durability of – they're kind of like the in-between prop. Like their MCK props fly really good, but they're not durable. These fly just as good, but they're way more durable. They're just a really – and they're also super light. They're 4 grams on the dot. I think maybe 3.99 or something. So that was a big request for me. And I run these for freestyle and racing right now. So that's super awesome. And I've been told not to reveal these, and I busted that, so I'm going to stop talking about them now. Stop teasing the props. But I'm just so excited in the comments. Like, I'm so excited for you guys.
That's so funny.
Because this has been a long project, and Azure and I have had many good and bad conversations about like making this prop the way I wanted it, and finally we got it to where I want. And the reality is, everyone here knows like the freestyle is evolving all the time, and racing is. So like you have what you want in a prop is constantly changing. So in a year from now it'll be different, but right now this is what I love for. And I think all the 5-inch racers out there are gonna really love this prop. It's got a very smooth flight performance, and it's pretty darn durable as well. So you can hit.
So I'm guessing you can't tell pitch and all that stuff then, huh?
No, but it doesn't matter. It literally does not matter. If I don't,
it doesn't matter.
I've honestly been debating with Azure to not even release the pitch, just like the ethics props don't release the pitch. I mean, you can find it out, but like because it doesn't matter. Like one thing that Azure actually they brought up a good point is like, don't worry about the pitch. Just tell us what you want the prop to fly like, and we'll make it happen. And once I started doing that and stopped telling them numbers to make, the prop got better. And it got better and better and better. Just by telling them I needed more grip. And I'll say this, it does feel good it does like high KV. I will say that it kind of feels a bit squishy on a lower KV setup. So like if you're running 6-cell, anything 1800 kV and above is going to feel real nice. If it's a 4-cell setup, I'd say 2500 and above is going to feel real good. I've tried it on lower kV stuff, and it's kind of squishy, but it's really meant for like a high RPM drivetrain. But no, pitch and everything doesn't matter. It's very similar and very comparable to the MCK prop and the heads-up FPV HQ prop, the R38.
Excuse me. I want to clarify, too, that I'm the one that hit the button that put Vanny off the screen. It was not Jake's fault because Jake got blamed. It was totally my fault. So
I fixed it.
Like flexing.
Yeah, he gets his moments. Rue wants to know how you keep the love of flying in these lockdown crazy times.
Ooh, that's a good question. How do you keep the love of flying? You know, flying has always been a passion for me. I always try to not get down in times like this just because there's no need to. this is going to be speaking a little bit on my Christian beliefs, but like, for example, there is so much more to this life than what I think people realize, just to, like, without going a whole religious topic, but like, there's so much more to life than just quads and just like quarantine and everything. And I think people need to realize that, like, this is a temporary thing. This is like, in terms of humanity, we're just like a blink of an eye, our lives, relatively speaking, right? So, how do I stay motivated? To kind of answer your question, now I'm going to sound like some philosophical guru. How do I stay motivated? Like, how do I stay motivated and everything to keep? It's because I enjoy it. I don't ever lose motivation, I guess. Like, it's not a problem for me to stay motivated. It is nice. I can walk outside and fly. I can't freestyle really because there's really nothing to freestyle except just open field flippy flops. But honestly, this whole lockdown has made me appreciate a lot more about my life and the people around my life. So like, it's just made me a better person, honestly. So like, it's made me appreciate the ability I have to fly and everything. So like, I don't know, if anything, I guess I got more motivation just out of the shutdown itself. So it's had adverse effects on people. We talked a little bit about it, but anyhow.
Lanuzo wants to know if you do any drugs or alcohol or if you're straight edge. And I bring it up now because it ties into your Christian beliefs, I feel like.
Yeah. Yes. I don't. Not yes. I don't do. I don't do drugs. I don't smoke. I don't do any of that. No. No. And part of that, I guess, is my beliefs, but also just the way I was raised. I wasn't raised to do anything like that. So that's a negatory.
Jeff wants to know if you flew between your legs with a 5-inch when you were on the beach.
Yes, I did. No prop guards on a 5-inch. Ooh, any plans to get into Red Bull air racing? I would love to, except Red Bull air racing, I think, is no longer a thing, at least right now. I think it's being made into something else. That would be sick. I would love to get into Red Bull air racing. The problem with Red Bull air racing is it's all about money. You have to be in the right place at the right time, or you need to be like an air show pilot who's really well-renowned air show pilot. And that's already hard enough to get into, and then you have to get invited to do Red Bull air racing. So
that's pretty dope.
Travis
said you did 3D with Zoe. Do you plan on doing any more 3D with quads?
Yes, I do. I'm just in need of 3D props. So HQ, anyone listening, 3D props, I could use some. I haven't done much research, to be perfectly honest, but like, I definitely want to do it. I mean, I flew her 3D quad. That is the only exception to where I think hyper smooth would be acceptable, because the transition between upright and inverted, it's really abrupt. It's better than it used to be, but it's impossible to do it smoothly without some form of stabilization. So yes, I do. And I have great plans to do that with the freestyle quad and get good at that. I want my rematch with Zoe. Because I know people have their opinions on like everyone in the community. I think Zoe is one of the best 3D FPV pilots I've ever seen fly. So she's really good at what she does. And she's doing it for like 4.5 years. And of course, I've done it for 2 hours. So it's fun.
Was it fun?
It was a lot of fun. It was a blast. It was really weird. Like, I've flown 3D helicopters, so like the whole throttle thing wasn't hard for me. It was just being under the goggles. It's like the first time you fly FPV again, because everything just is so different. It's so new. So like all of a sudden I'm like having to race her inverted. I was like, oh gosh, like I'm gonna lose a challenge. Yeah, we did the race challenge and then we did the hot wings right after that. That was a fun day. I got really humbled that day.
I'm just reading all the comments trying to see if we've missed any.
So Mason Storm does, and it's a religion question, of course. Is anyone else on Rotorite fairly Christian?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of. I've been a Christian for a pretty short amount of time, without talking too much about my testimony or anything, because I know there's some people who probably don't care to hear it, but I could go on, and I will a little bit, just because like I thought I was for many years of my life. Like I was born in a Christian family, so like I've had a different approach than other people. But long story short, it wasn't until, at least in the fairly recent future, that I realized I wasn't. And if anyone wants to know more about that, I'm going to be doing a video about that on some point on my YouTube channel. So I'll talk about more there when it's on my time. The Hot Wings video had some great screenshots. I won't lie to you, Alex. Yes, it did.
How come there's no memes from it, though? Like, where are the memes if you found all the screenshots?
Wow, that's a good point. Everyone's kind of stuck inside and everything as well. So, yeah, I'm surprised there's not. But
That actually brings me to a good question here. With all the memes and stuff going around, and I know you already know of the whole the Rotor Riot official page, and I'm sure Chad has mentioned it and all that stuff. With all the memes going around with like your face plastered to it or Drew's face plastered to it and stuff like that, does that ever bother you, or do you just let it roll?
I'll let it roll. I haven't seen many of them because I just choose not to. I've just learned that like in the last year and a half, I finally started to see like a few haters. I get some weird messages probably once every few months or something. Maybe not, maybe more often than that. I don't know. I don't worry about it just because I try and instead of worrying about those people and focusing my energy on those people, I'd rather spend my energy focusing on the people who have been supportive of me and continue to be supportive of me and my fans and stuff, because those are the people who deserve my energy and my focus. So no, it doesn't bother me, and I keep doing this because I love it, and to everyone who supports me, thank you so much. Sponsors, friends, families, people watching. You guys are awesome.
That's dope. Dope. Great answer. I like that answer. I'm a hothead. Every once in a while, I'll lose it.
So, your mom, from what I see on Facebook anyway, is like your most supportive person and fan by far. Has she always supported you in FPV, or was she kind of like, why are you doing this and wasting your time at 15?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That is a very good question.
To be fair, we asked Evan Turner the same question.
Yeah, she was supportive to a certain extent. I was a senior in high school when I won the national championship, and before I went to that race, because it was a lot of money and everything, she didn't actually tell me like you need to win this, otherwise it's done. But we both knew that like I was going off to college, like it was basically done. Like this was my last hurrah, and then I won the championship, kind of out of nowhere. She was always supportive though, no matter what. And when I told her I wanted to take a year off in between high school and college, and now it's kind of 2 years, and just focus on this, she's been nothing but supportive. Both of my parents have been. So yeah, she's gotten involved in it too, which is awesome. Noikle says, you got me into racing. Keep sending it. Thanks, man. I've talked a little bit about him. Him and Propsicle are 2 5-inch pilots. I don't know how much you two know about them, but you should do some YouTube research or some Facebook research. Those 2 kids, I'm going to say kids because I'm 20 and they're like.
Because you don't get to say it often.
They're like 7 years younger than me. Like I can say kids, like teenagers.
That's how I feel about you.
Like, I feel like I'm a kid. And then when I see these kids, I feel washed up. Like I watch their videos, like him and Propsicle. I think they're going to be the new Evan Turner, Alex Vanover like,
combo
in 5-inch racing, I think. So that's what I think. I think Evan and I are focusing on. I think Evan can do both, and I can do both, but I think they're going to start really rising to the occasion.
This is San Diego, right?
This is that's Florida. Daytona.
Where? Oh,
Daytona
okay.
Beach.
Okay.
That was flying from the balcony before they told us we couldn't do that.
Did you build the 3-inch octocopter from Rotor Ride episode for yourself?
That's a negatory. The person who built that for the episode, or someone built it for us, and then what else? I was gonna build one myself. I just never got all the parts for it. So, thank you so much, by the way, D4FPV. I appreciate it, man.
Noikle's only 6 years younger than you, to clarify.
4 years younger than me. Well, let me tell you this, bud.
Oh yeah, he's not even. Yeah, he's not even 7 or. Yeah, that's bad. Oh my God, Evan's dad.
So he's not a kid anymore.
I thought it's facial hair that determines that, not armpit hair. He's gonna kill you for that comment too, Kevin. Like, hopefully he doesn't rewatch it because he'll kill you for that one.
No, I'm kidding. That's I'm 17. Never mind. He's not. We're all kids. Like I'm a kid.
It's
but, like, when I hit 20, I was like, okay, I'm getting older. Like not about it. I'm getting older.
When I was 21, I was like, oh, I'm grown up. And now that I'm almost 28, I'm like, holy shit, I was a child. And now I feel more grown up. And then you keep looking back on stuff and you're like, oh my God, everyone's so young. And like Jake, even I'm sure right now is like, look at these youngins.
It sucks to say it because like I have a 13-year-old and I'm like, gosh, I'm old. You know.
Oh man.
But here's a question for you. Now I know you said Sharpoo was your inspiration to get into the hobby. As he was mine as well. Through the Cracks or whatever was like one of the first FPV videos I'd ever seen. But let's say if you were getting to the hobby today, who would have been your inspiration?
I would say Steel or Johnny.
Yeah.
It depends. Like I think Johnny has a bigger social media presence than Steel does, but I think Steel maybe has a bigger presence. This is going to be hard to believe for some, but I think there's a difference between popularity and actually getting jobs. And I think Johnny is both. Don't get me wrong, but I think Steel maybe gets more gigs than Johnny does in some sense. And that's just my view. I could be so wrong, so please don't quote that. That's just my opinion. But the reason I bring that up is because to answer your question, based on what I like the videos I see online, which is either Steel or Johnny, like we all are in the FPV community. We have Facebook and we're on like Road Riot community and like Team Black Sheep and all those things. So we see everyone's videos. I have friends of mine who have seen Steel and Johnny's videos. So like that's how I would have gotten into it, would have been based on one of those two people. Because like if my friends who have nothing to do with FPV are seeing a Johnny clip or a Steel clip, then yeah.
Do you have a favorite micro racer?
Tiny Trainer all the way. I haven't really done much micro racing, so like the Tiny Trainer has been the one and only quad, and that thing's a tank. So that's coming out soon. Shameless plug, of course, but I mean that's the only quad that I can put my stamp of approval on. So it's a 3-inch quad, 2.5 3-inch quad. So, yeah.
No, like Kyle said, if you didn't say it, then you were off the team. Or take the last couple of questions and wrap it up here, guys.
This has been fun. I'm enjoying this. These are good questions.
Yeah, you've got some really good intellectual, deep thought questions tonight, which is awesome.
I enjoy those. Yeah.
It makes it more fun than just the same thing, right? Like everyone knows a lot. And I mean, I don't watch other people's interviews because then I feel like it'll influence my interview. So we try and like, I avoid all that usually. So I have no idea what you've said before, but I'm sure other people have seen Roland's interviews with you and know a little bit about you at least.
Yep. I've done a bunch of interviews with Rollins, as a matter of fact. We've done like
I'd say you did at least 2, I think, right?
Yeah, we did one. It was funny. We did pre-DRL, mid-season DRL, and then right after I won the championship. So if you guys are really curious to hear like how much because I know people like see me as like cocky and arrogant and everything, and there's a good saying like who you are doesn't have to define who you are. Like it doesn't have to define who you are. I've changed a lot, and DRL really helped change me a lot. It humbled me to a very great extent. So go watch those interviews, and you'll see just how much that had changed me throughout the course of 8 months last year. Don't Fly Micro leans in to reveal 2 micro gates behind his head. Those are tiny whip gates actually, but I guess that is micro. So I fly the newbie drone stuff mainly because I just don't think there's a better flying tiny whip. It feels like you're flying a real quad. If you ask me which newbie drone stuff, I fly whatever is binding flying, whatever Christopher Davis didn't want to send me. So hats off to
you. Have you tried their new 20x20 stack?
I have not tried the 2020 stack. I know Cricket FPV has, and he says
great
it's solid.
Magic, man. As much as I love my Brain FPV stuff, because I fly 2 mains now, or 3. I do my hobby wings. I have my Brain FPV, but this 20x20 that Newbie Drone came out with is ridiculous.
This way, Brain FPV is going to drop something. They've been waiting. That's all I'm going to say. I literally can't say anything more about that because I'll get shot.
I want them to come out with their own ESC, like kind of like you know what I mean. Instead of having to use a hobby wing or something like that.
ESCs are all the same to me. It's the flight controller makes it. I mean, they're not all the same, but like there's good ones and bad ones. Like if it's a good one, it's a good one. I don't see a performance difference, like in terms of like flight feel and ESCs. But flight controller, like what's in the newbie drone flight controller, yeah, you should notice a difference. That should fly really well.
It's a ridiculous difference.
That's good. That makes me want to try one. But we'll see. Brain's been working on some stuff as well. It's funny. I actually was flinging my quad around earlier. You might have seen something, but Too late now. Go replay.
Right. No, Jenny and those guys are amazing as well. They have a great following. They have great service, all that stuff. So, and I have 2 brain boards, an LI and the Radix, the regular Radix, and they've never failed me. I will say that. And I've had them for about a year now.
Yeah.
So Travis Hansen said, what would you tell new folks to the hobby is the most important skill to master?
Skill to master? Ooh, that's a good question. Flying smooth. And I say that because that's what I've been telling I've been helping some people on the simulator recently. Is fly smooth. If you can fly smooth from the get-go, I think that's gonna really help, no matter if you do freestyle or racing. I think if you can fly smooth, it changes a lot of control of the quad versus being jerky. So like that's the biggest thing. Fly smooth. It's not necessarily about not touching the controls. It's just about being fluid and planning out your next move versus just like teleportation. Like I think that's the biggest tip I would give to like as far as an actual thing. Besides that, my best piece of advice is just to remember to have fun, because you're gonna have good days and bad days. Just keep a positive attitude with everything. I have to tell myself that a lot, and it always brings me back to the status quo, which is why I started this. That's to have fun.
He wants to know if you saw the Diarra repost of the husky eating the newbie drones.
I did not. Interesting. I'll have to go look at that now. I have not.
It's a pretty cool edit.
Interesting.
Night Train's right. This is pretty deep actually about you. Sometimes our desires and our journeys don't match, and we handle them funny or in a not right way. To see you go from teen to man in the last 2 years with your journey has been great to watch.
Oh, that made my day. Thank you, Night Train FPV. That's encouraging, man. Thank you so much for saying that. And I have a lot of room to grow. There's a Conor McGregor saying, and if you don't know who Conor McGregor is, I'm not going to go on and on, but he's a UFC fighter.
I think everyone knows who Conor McGregor is.
Right. And I used to be inspired by the cockiness. That's where I got a lot of it from. But he's also changed an insane amount. If you go watch, he's really changed. His heart's changed quite a bit. But he's still the same old Conor McGregor at the same time, just without some of the obnoxiousness. But anyhow,
with softer.
Don't focus on how much you have improved. Focus on how much more you can improve, and that's what I'm just trying to keep doing, man. And everything.
That's awesome, dude.
I think that's a good one to end it on, Jake. What about you?
Absolutely, that was amazing. So
let's end on a nice positive there. Thank you for coming out and spending some time with us and answering everyone's questions. Okay, Shane, you snuck one in. I'll let you have this one last question. What is your thoughts on the toughest 5-inch frame?
Racing wise, it's the switchback. It's the switchback frame, and then if it's freestyle wise, I think my freestyle frame, the Vanny style, on FPV Flight Club. I'm gonna promote it because I haven't done it in a while.
I'm ordering one right now.
Sweet. And if you guys, by the way, anyone who wants to know the stuff I use, if you go to my YouTube videos, I've been doing a really good job the last 6 months. If it's a racing video or freestyle video, I link everything I use in the description. Some of them are affiliate links, some of them aren't. That's not really the matter for me. I just want you guys to have resources to the stuff that I fly. And I'm going to be doing some videos about like my setups and some other stuff coming soon. So,
well, thank you again for coming out. I really appreciate it. I think everyone does too. If there's any other questions, I think you're pretty open to people sending you messages on Facebook or just dropping in your DM and waiting or whatever it takes. But like you said, you keep your info available. And I'm going to put it in the description in the video too. So when people rewatch, they'll see certain things. And yeah, everyone wants more videos. RC planes and all.
RC planes and all. We'll make it. I need to get a Scarecrow movie to come to Dallas. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, there you go. Now he's signed up for it. Don't forget. Perfect. Yep. Thank you guys. Everyone stay safe. Next week, I think we're doing another quad class episode. So we'll be looking at, I don't know what, either liftoff tricks again or some other type of learning. But it'll be 9 p.m. Eastern from now on until winter hits again and we lose the sun. But thank you guys. And the week after next, we will be having NERC. So check out NERC because everyone. Have a good one, guys.